Today's lesson is Black Forest cake. To prepare your cake tins for baking, double up a piece of parchment paper. Then trace around the bottom of the 9-inch cake tin using a pencil. Use scissors to cut out the circles. Spray some cooking spray or spread some soft butter on the bottom and sides of the cake tins. Place your parchment paper circles in the bottom of each cake tin. The parchment will allow for easy release of the cake later on. Now, time to mix the cake. Remember, you can halve the recipe to make only one cake if you wish. Start by adding the sugar, then salt, then butter. Put in the mixer with the paddle attachment and cream together on high speed for several minutes. When it is ready, scrape down the bowl. You will know it's ready because the mixture should look light and fluffy. Now you will start to sift all of your dry ingredients together. Start with the pastry flour and then the cocoa powder. Next, add in the whole milk powder, baking powder, and baking soda. Add all the dry ingredients to the mixer all at once. Next, add the water. Mix everything on medium speed for 5 minutes. If you don't have access to milk powder, you can remove the water from the recipe and replace it with an equal volume of fresh milk. This will produce the same results. Make sure you scrape down the bowl at least once during mixing. After 5 or 6 minutes, the batter should be lighter and become much more liquid. Add vanilla extract to the eggs. Then begin to add them one at a time with the mixer on medium speed. Make sure each addition of eggs is fully incorporated before adding the next. Make sure to scrape the bowl down. Make sure to scrape the bowl one last time to ensure everything is evenly mixed. Now, time to pour the batter into the cake tins. You should weigh approximately 800 grams of batter into each tin. Spread the batter evenly with a small offset palette knife. Bake at 375 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. When the cake is done, it will be slightly domed on top and spring back when touched. Release the cake by running an offset palette knife around the outer edge and flipping upside down. To prepare the chocolate shavings for the center and bottom edge of the cake, there are two methods to choose from. For the first, secure a cutting board to the table with a damp towel. Get a block of chocolate and press it against your body using a towel to anchor it in place. Hold a chef knife in both hands and scrape the chocolate toward you. This will produce large shards of chocolate. If you're using this method, be very careful to control the movement of the knife as you pull it toward you. Reserve the shavings in the refrigerator until later. The second method is a little bit easier, and it can be used on smaller blocks of chocolate as well as larger ones. Simply place the peeler on the edge of the chocolate and peel it just like you would peel a vegetable. This will produce smaller, more delicate shavings. You can choose which method you like best. Next, prepare the Kirsch simple syrup for the inside of the cake. Simply place sugar in a pot, add water, stir, and then bring to a boil. Once the syrup boils, remove the pot from the heat and add the Kirsch. Kirsch is a clear cherry-flavored brandy and gives the distinctive flavor the Black Forest cake is known for. Set the syrup aside at room temperature. Next, we have to prepare the cherries for the cake filling. You can use canned Bing cherries like these ones, prepared cherry pie filling, or even fresh pitted cherries. Drain the cherries on a paper towel to drain off the excess juice. If you have lots of excess, you can add it to the Kirsch simple syrup to enhance color and flavor. Cut each cherry in half with a small serrated knife. Now we have to whip the cream for the filling. Make sure the cream is very cold. Whip at high speed until you get firm peaks. Take your cooled cake and place it on a turntable. Remove the parchment from the bottom. Use your serrated knife to cut a tiny bit off the top of the cake to remove any doming. Just cut minimally, don't take too much off. Now we have to cut the cake into 3 even layers. To do this, I mark the cake in one spot with a knife into 3 even pieces. If you're satisfied that the pieces look equal, you can begin to score the cake all the way around to clearly mark where you will eventually cut. Remember, just score the cake at this point. Don't cut all the way through. Once your layers are clearly defined, you can actually start to cut the cake. To do this, make small sawing motions with the serrated knife while constantly turning the turntable. Make sure to reserve the bottom layer of the cake to be used as the top layer of the assembled cake. Place one layer of cake onto the turntable and soak it with Kirsch simple syrup using a pastry brush. The Kirsch syrup will not only give the cake a nice flavor, but will keep it nice and moist. Take a number 5 piping tip, either closed star or French star, and put it into your piping bag. Fill the piping bag with some of your whipped cream. Pipe a ring of whipped cream around the outside edge of the cake. Then pipe more circles of cream on top of the cake, leaving a bit of space between each one. Use your small offset palette knife to smooth the cream over the surface of the cake. You can add a little bit more cream if needed. Make sure you leave the border of cream around the outside of the cake a bit higher than the cream on the inside. We call this border a dam, and it's meant to contain the cake filling inside so it doesn't leak or spill out. Divide the cherries in half and place them evenly over the top of the cake layer. Press the cherries gently into the cream. Spread a bit of cream over the cherries just to secure them in place. For the middle layer, I usually use the original top of the cake and place it upside down. Soak it with Kirsch syrup and then fill with cream and cherries just like you did the layer before. Place the top layer on the cake, which was the original bottom of the baked cake. Put a few spatulas full of whipped cream on top of the cake. Use your offset palette knife to smooth the cream down a bit. With gentle back and forth motions of your hand, push the cream little by little from the center of the cake to the outside edges. Turn the turntable as you go, so you're always working in front of yourself. Once the cream is covering the top, hold your palette knife about 1/2 inch from the edge of the cake. Hold it as still as you can while turning the turntable 1 full rotation. This will smooth the top. Switch to a straight palette knife and start to apply cream in small 2-inch sections into the side of the cake. Hold the blade of the palette knife with your index finger and use small back and forth motions to smooth the cream out. Apply enough cream to ensure the cake is not showing through at all. Continue like this all the way around the cake until the sides are completely covered with cream. To clean the base of the cake, hold your palette knife almost flat and turn the turntable all the way around. Remove the excess cream. Switch now to a metal bench scraper and hold it toward you with the rounded edge held out at a 45-degree angle. Start with each hand at the top of the turntable and slowly turn the turntable in one direction while you pull the bench scraper in the opposite direction. Try to rotate the turntable in one slow, continuous motion for the cleanest edges. You will now have built up a wall of extra cream at the top edge of the cake. To get sharp top edges, switch to your offset palette knife. Hold the offset palette knife parallel to the top of the cake, set it down, and then pull the excess cream from the edge of the cake to the center. Clean your palette knife each time you do this. Rotate the turntable so you're always working directly in front of yourself. To comb the sides of the cake, pick the side of the comb with the larger set of pointed teeth. Dip the comb in hot water and dry it off. Place the comb on the cake just like you did with the bench scraper at a 45-degree angle and slowly rotate the turntable as you scrape the side of the cake. Try to do this in one consistent motion. To remove the cake from the turntable, place your offset knife flat on the turntable and rotate it all the way around. Lift the cake with the palette knife and support it underneath with your other hand. Place the front of the cake down on the cake board first, then lower it down with the offset palette knife on the other side. Use another palette knife to help release it. Hold the cake with one hand over your bowl of chocolate shavings. With the other hand, press small handfuls of shavings into the cake about 1 inch up the sides. Be careful not to drop the cake. Place the cake gently back on the turntable using your hand and the offset palette knife to help. Use a chef knife to make impressions in the cream to divide the cake in 2 equal halves. Then divide it into quarters. Divide each of these quarters into 3 pieces, so you now have 12 even pieces marked on the top of the cake. Take the piping bag you were using earlier with a star tip and fill it with more cream. Pipe a rosette at the top of each of your 12 marked slices. Use a paper towel to drain the excess juice off of 12 maraschino or brandied cherries. Put 1 cherry on top of each rosette. Gently pile your leftover chocolate shavings in the center of the cake. And now you're done, and you have a beautiful Black Forest cake.